displaying the glory of God's creation by visiting every state park, national park, and national forest in the contiguous 48 states. Welcome to Parking Full Time with Big Dave the Parker. 10th hole, 370 feet. It's downhill. It's a par 3. It's really tight up here by the tee, but the fairway gets a little bit wider as we get down closer to the basket. It's also a dogleg to the right. I want to welcome you back to Parking Full Time. I am Big Dave the Parker. We are at Grand Central Station Disc Golf Course. We are a few miles east of Clemson, South Carolina, and so we are in upstate South Carolina. We're making our way downhill here, one little terrace at a time. That's the 10th basket you see. A couple of these terraces are steep, that's why I'm being careful getting down the terrace there. There's a steep drop-off right behind this basket, and therefore you have to be careful not to miss long. 11th hole plays back up the hill. There is one tree right in the middle of the fairway right here, and if you can get around that tree, then this is a pretty straightforward hole with a pretty generous fairway. It is 260 feet, and it's a par 3. Again, it plays a little bit longer than that because this hole is gradually uphill. That's kind of the inverse of the previous hole. That's the 11th basket right there. And that's the view from behind the basket back down the 11th fairway. The 12th hole is more open. It's 450 feet, and it's a par 4. The holes at Grand Central Station are organized into two 18-hole lines. The lines are just the names for the course route. There's the Freight Line and the Locomotive Line. Both lines consist of 18 holes. The park entrance road is coming up here, and you do have to throw across this road, so you have to pay attention for vehicles entering and exiting the park as you throw here. In total, there are 27 distinct tee pads and 25 distinct baskets, and so therefore some tees and some baskets are used on both lines. And in fact, some holes are played, the entire hole is played on both lines. This basket you see up here, it's the basket for the 12th hole on the Locomotive Line. It's also the basket for the 3rd hole on the Freight Line. The 3rd hole from the Freight Line comes in from the right. There's the view back down the fairway from behind the basket. 13th hole is 415 feet. It is a par 3, so it's long for a par 3, but at least at the beginning here, it is steeply downhill. Also, this hole plays straight down a low-voltage power line corridor, and therefore you have a pretty wide fairway to work with. And so this is one opportunity on this course to really drive your disc. A few more words about the Freight Line and the Locomotive Line. In general, the Freight Line is a little bit shorter and a little bit easier than the Locomotive Line. I personally probably prefer the Freight Line a little bit more than the Locomotive Line because some of the things on the Locomotive Line I find to be quite contrived. Although, if you're a better disc golfer than I am, I can see why you'd like the Locomotive Line more. There's the 13th basket, and there's the view back to the tee. 14th hole is 275 feet. It's a par 3. It starts out really open, but we are headed into this little narrow chute carved out of the trees that you see straight ahead here. This is a really dense forest here, but there isn't much understory, so if you throw your disc into the trees, you're going to have a really tough recovery shot, although probably you're not going to lose your disc. There's the 14th basket. This is also the 5th basket on the Freight Line. And there's the view back to the tee. 15th hole plays down this high-voltage power line corridor. On the Locomotive Line, there is a mando that your disc has to go underneath the supports of these towers here. So you can't go around like I'm walking here. You have to actually go underneath the towers. That's an example of some of the contrition that I find with the Locomotive Line. I think some of the difficulty on the Locomotive Line is contrived, and therefore I prefer the Freight Line, although again, someone who is better at disc golf than I am, I can see why you'd like the Locomotive Line better. This hole is 740 feet, and it is a par 4, but it is straight downhill all the way. One other thing I'll say about this hole. When I came here, there's actually some construction going on that you're going to see up ahead here, and that construction had actually removed the basket for this hole. And so therefore, if you were going to play this hole when I came here, you would actually have to play it to the 6th basket on the Freight Line, and that's actually where we are headed with this particular walkabout. So the 6th basket on the Freight Line is the one you see coming up underneath this power line support right here. Again, there is another basket normally for this hole on the Locomotive Line. It would be further down the hill, but it was removed because of the construction. And these power line supports are Mandos on the Locomotive Line, so you have to go underneath the supports there. The 16th hole continues the downhill glide from the previous hole. It is 315 feet. It's a par 3. It plays over a very scenic creek that you see coming up here. That creek is out of bounds, and so if you throw your disc in there, you have to come back to the current side of the creek and throw over it again. I can't fly over the creek like a disc would, so we're going to jump up ahead to the basket area. This is a very scenic hole. This is one of my favorite holes on this course. There's the basket. It's the 7th basket on the Freight Line, and also the 16th basket on the Locomotive Line. 17th hole is 345 feet. You have to decide how to deal with the creek again, whether to try to get across it in one throw, which a good throw would probably make it, or whether you want to try to lay up and get across it with your second throw. This hole is a par 3. Again, we jumped across the creek, and then after crossing the creek, it plays steeply uphill into this little chute in the trees. One last thing about the two lines. The two lines are color-coded, so in general, the blue is for the Locomotive Line, black is for the Freight Line. There's the basket and the view back to the tee. 18th and final hole, and this is the 18th hole for both the Freight Line and the Locomotive Line. It is 510 feet, it is uphill, and it is a par 4. There's kind of a double dogleg here in this chute, for lack of a better term, carved out of the trees. And so you have to navigate the double dogleg with your first and or second throw. But once you get out of the trees, then this hole really opens up, and this really becomes a pretty straightforward hole. Since this is the last hole, I do want to thank you for watching. Parking full time would not be anything without the people who watch. I realize that every day, and I thank you every day. If you like this sort of thing, please click the thumbs up button, and if you're new around here, please click the subscribe button. That encourages me to bring more of this sort of thing your way, and helps other people to find this video. Grand Central Station is one of the best disc golf courses, in fact maybe the best disc golf course in upstate South Carolina, and so if you're anywhere in or near this area, you should definitely come here and play this course. That's the end of the course and the end of this video. Have a great afternoon, take care, and Lord bless.